Deleted session, June 18, 1981. Now, there are session-related events that do not necessarily appear within the sessions themselves, except as they are related through your own notes. These often involve responses to session material. Ruber's message from the sinful self is a case in point, for it represents a response both to my material and to a question of your own. It gives a clear declaration of the sinful self's attitudes in the past, and its new growing recognition that those attitudes have been unfortunate. The sinful self has also raised some questions that are pertinent and with which we will shortly deal. It is important that its questions and attitudes be taken seriously. Ruber's forgotten dream was a clear psychological statement in which all of the elements in his personality momentarily joined not only for a discussion, so to speak, but blended their forces, exerted their energies, and set up a firm intent to clarify the entire situation, and to exert all of their energies in a successful healing venture. The advice of the sinful self should also be followed as given in the last paragraphs of that material. The statement that I suggested should also be written, along with those procedures. The plans for the front porch and for the small group should be further considered, for they also represent motion on other levels. I understand Ruber's distress at times with the odd feelings of balance, but remember that these represent multitudinous changes and motions within the body, new positions requiring minute alterations of muscular tension that are actually highly beneficial. There is a certain reason to these sessions, that is, to this particular group, so that certain elements are strongly presented for his consideration. They serve as focal points of his interest, of course, and initiate various physical and psychological responses. They elicit responses on your part, of course, as well, responses that further help form your questions or note material. Then, there are quite necessary resting periods in between, in which, theoretically, the matters would be best dropped from conscious concentration. Such a period is then followed again by perhaps more pointed activity. It is necessary that assimilation take place, of course. It is also necessary that there is room for certain psychological actions and motions to change from one pattern to another. The message of the sinful self shows excellent psychological mobility. That material can quite legitimately take the place of a regular session for the week. It was of great value in the fact that the sinful self was able finally to express itself that clearly, and I do not believe that the document is as yet completed. The main issues with which the sinful self was concerned were focused most clearly in mass events and the God of Jane. Since more than the other books, they represent a direct confrontation, attacking the very legitimacy of the entire concept of sin and evil, insisting more dramatically on the good intent of man's basic impulses. Ruber felt those issues could not be buried under the rug, but he did not realize the extent to which some of those old beliefs still lingered. The sinful self's explanation represents a fascinating psychological document in that regard, and also shows the self's mobility and the willingness to learn and change, once the intent is made to take a stand. It might be of value to have Ruber mentally ask the sinful self for a few comments on how its beliefs about the female sex were connected with its concepts of sin, and if those attitudes are changing. The material, plus my comments in this session, will set off further psychological mobility, of course, clarifying various positions more clearly. The printed material will most likely return with somewhat of another scent. My own prognosis is quite favorable with the probabilities as they stand. This will be a brief session, unless again you have specific questions. Ralph said, "No, I guess not." They said, "Then I bid you a fond, and to Robert a therapeutic good night." Ralph said, "Thank you, Seth." They said, "My heartiest regards," and again, many session-related events are happening at other levels of activity. I wish you a fond good evening. Again, and through Robert's experience, enjoy your summertime. Ralph said good night.